Have you ever cried silently at night, not because something happened, but because nothing changed? You wake up with a heavy heart, smile through the day, but deep down you feel like you're drowning, and no one sees it. That silent war inside your chest, that constant tightness, the anxiety that wraps around your soul like a storm, and the most painful part, you've begged Allah for relief, but the pain still lingers. So you start to wonder, has He forgotten you? But what if I told you He hasn't? What if I told you there's a hidden promise in the Qur'an, a divine key that was revealed specifically for this feeling, a timeless truth from Allah Himself, for moments exactly like this? Too many people think anxiety is a sign of weak faith, but what if it's the exact moment your faith is being tested and shaped? What if your anxiety isn't your enemy, but your invitation from Allah to come closer? Most people don't realize that some of the most beloved souls to Allah, the prophets, themselves, felt exactly what you're feeling right now, and what saved them can save you too. This message is not for everyone, but if you've ever asked yourself, why does my heart feel so unsettled, even when I try to trust Allah, then maybe, just maybe, you were meant to hear this. Allah's promise against anxiety isn't just a verse, it's a lifeline, but almost no one talks about it deeply, because understanding it requires more than intellect. It demands emotional honesty, surrender, and spiritual awakening. Few people know this. Buried within the Qur'an are not just commands, but divine comforts, verses that breathe peace into broken hearts, messages that speak directly to your pain, as if Allah is holding your heart in His hand. Today, you're going to hear them, not in abstract, but in a way that sinks into your bones and softens your soul. So don't look away. Don't scroll past this moment. Something is about to be revealed that could change the way you see your pain, and maybe even the way you talk to Allah. This isn't just a video. This could be the moment your healing begins. Allah's promise is real, and it might be closer than you think. Before we move forward, I want you to pause for a moment. Breathe in and whisper, Bismillah. You're not here by accident. Allah led your heart to this exact moment. Maybe this is His answer to a silent dua you made on a night when no one saw your tears. Maybe this message is the mercy you've been asking for. So, prepare your heart, because what's about to be revealed could be the beginning of a transformation your soul has longed for. And I need you to do something powerful as an act of faith. If this message is already touching something deep inside you, write in the comments, I trust in Allah's promise. Don't just type it, declare it. Let the world know that no matter how heavy your anxiety feels, your heart still clings to His mercy. This isn't just a comment, it's your public stand of surrender and hope. If even a small part of your heart feels lighter, then click like as a sadaqah jariyah. Yes, by liking this video, you help this message of healing reach someone else who's silently breaking inside. Let your click be a form of dawah. Let it be a ripple of mercy. And if your soul has been starving for this kind of reminder, then subscribe. This isn't just a channel, it's a refuge, a space where your faith is seen, where your struggles are honored, and where every message is crafted to remind you, you are not alone. Don't leave. There's something Allah revealed in the Qur'an about anxiety that very few people talk about, and it may just be exactly what your heart was waiting to hear. The night was thick with fear, and the sound of hooves thundered behind them. Imagine standing at the edge of an endless sea with no boat, no bridge, no escape. Behind you, an army armed with hatred, closer every second. This is where Musa stood with his people, hearts trembling, the taste of death already on their tongues. Can you feel the weight of that moment? The kind of terror where your chest tightens, your breath shortens, and you whisper, there's no way out. That's not just their story, that's your story too. When the future feels like a wall you cannot climb, when anxiety tells you that everything ahead is only loss and failure. How many times have you stood at your own Red Sea, convinced that the waves would swallow you whole? Yet in that suffocating moment, Musa spoke words that echo through time. Indeed, with me is my Lord. He will guide me. Surah Ash-Shu'ara 26:62. Those weren't empty words of comfort. They were defiance against despair. They were a declaration that the unseen belongs to Allah alone, and that no chain of anxiety is stronger than His decree. The Quran records these words because Allah knew we would need them, because you would need them, when your heart starts racing over a future you cannot control. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit: The future has never been in your control. That constant urge to predict, to plan, to secure yourself against every possible outcome, it's exhausting, isn't it? Yet even if you planned every detail, life has shown you it can collapse in a second. That's why real freedom comes not from controlling tomorrow, but from surrendering it. But let's be honest, doesn't part of you think that surrendering means losing? Society tells us, take control, fight harder, never let go. But what if this pressure to control is exactly what is making you anxious? What if anxiety is not weakness, but Allah's way of reminding you that you are human and He is God? Think about Musa's people. They saw only water in front and swords behind. They couldn't see a path, but Allah had already written the sea's obedience long before their feet touched the sand. The path was always there. They just couldn't see it yet. And isn't that what anxiety does? It blinds you to the unseen possibilities Allah has already prepared. Ask yourself, how many times did you panic, convinced your world was ending, only to look back later and realize Allah had written a way out you never imagined? That job you didn't get, that person who walked away, that plan that collapsed. What if those were seas parting and you just didn't see it? When anxiety whispers, "You're trapped," faith responds, "With me is my Lord. He will guide me." Close your eyes and breathe for a moment. Picture the sea splitting open, walls of water rising like mountains, and a dry path stretching forward. Hear the silence of that miracle. This is not a story of the past. It is a promise for you. If Allah could split the sea, can He not split your anxiety? If He could guide Musa through certain death, can He not guide you through uncertainty? The same Allah who made the impossible possible then is the one who watches your trembling heart tonight. So here's the uncomfortable question. Do you really believe Allah will guide you? Or do you secretly think your fear is stronger than His promise? Many people say they trust, but their hearts are still chained to doubt. And maybe that's why you've been drowning in worry, because deep down, you think your survival depends only on you. But the Qur'an keeps repeating, guidance is from Allah, not from your own strength. If your heart is pounding with this message, type in the comments, "I will trust Allah even when I can't see the way." Don't let this just be a story you heard. Make it a declaration of your faith. Write it as your commitment, as your step into the parted sea of trust. And here's what you must hold on to. What feels like the end is often the doorway Allah has written for your beginning. Anxiety says, "You're stuck," but Allah says, "I will guide you." Which voice will you listen to? But this is only the surface, because there is another story, hidden deep within the Qur'an, where the pain of loneliness turns into a miracle few speak about. And when you hear it, you will understand anxiety in a way you never thought possible. Stay with me, because what comes next might shatter everything you thought about being alone. She was young, pure, and chosen by Allah, yet in her darkest hour, she felt the crushing weight of loneliness. Picture Maryam, carrying the heavy pain of childbirth, her body trembling and her heart overwhelmed. Alone under the shade of a palm tree, she cried out, "Oh, I wish I had died before this," and was in oblivion, forgotten. Can you feel the depth of that moment? A woman beloved by Allah, abandoned by people, judged without mercy, suffering not only physical agony, but the suffocating grip of isolation. Her voice wasn't just pain, it was the same voice many of us carry when we whisper through tears, "I can't handle this anymore." That cry echoes in your own heart when you're surrounded by others, but feel completely unseen, when anxiety and sadness tell you that no one could possibly understand your struggle. And yet, in the middle of her despair, Allah sent relief. The Qur'an tells us that a voice called to her, "Do not grieve, your Lord has provided beneath you a stream." Surah Maryam 19:24. In the silence of loneliness, Allah spoke directly to her heart. This is the mercy many people forget. Even in the darkest, most abandoned places, Allah is closer than anyone else. When no one sees your tears, He sees them. When no one hears your prayers, He hears them. The truth is, people often believe that if they feel lonely or anxious, it means they are spiritually weak. But think about it. Was Maryam weak? Or was she being honored by Allah, chosen to carry a miracle that would change history? So why do you assume that your anxiety, your loneliness, is proof that Allah has abandoned you? What if it is proof that He is preparing you to find strength, not in the presence of people, but in His nearness? Let's pause here. How many times have you sat in a crowded room and still felt invisible? How many times have you wanted to explain your pain, but you feared no one would truly understand? Loneliness doesn't always come from being physically alone. It comes when the soul aches for someone to carry the weight with you. But Allah is reminding you through Maryam's story. He himself is the one who carries. He is Al-Latif, the most subtle, who provides relief in ways you never imagined. A hidden stream under your feet when you thought the earth itself had abandoned you. Imagine being in Maryam's place. The shame, the fear, the whispers of people ready to condemn her before they even knew the truth. And still, Allah gave her water, shade, and provision, telling her heart, "Do not grieve." That same command is for you. Do not grieve, for your Lord knows your silent battles. Do not grieve, for your Lord has written relief even before you saw the trial. Do not grieve, for the one who never leaves is with you right now, closer than the beating of your heart. But here's the question. Do you really believe that? Or do you secretly think Allah is distant, watching from far away, leaving you to suffer alone? Too many people confuse silence with absence. Just because Allah is silent does not mean He is absent. The Qur'an reveals that He is with the broken-hearted. He is near to those who call upon Him, and He responds when you whisper from the depths of despair. Think about your own life. That night you cried so much you thought you couldn't breathe. Who gave you the strength to wake up? The next morning, that moment you felt like collapsing but somehow kept going. Who carried you when you couldn't carry yourself? It wasn't luck. It wasn't coincidence. It was Allah showing you that His promise of relief is real, even if you don't recognize it at first. If this speaks to your heart, write in the comments, "Even in loneliness, Allah is with me." Let it be your testimony, your declaration of trust, your reminder that you are never truly alone. Let your comment be an act of faith that fights back against the whisper of despair. Take this to heart. Your loneliness is not a punishment. It may be the very space Allah creates to bring you closer to Him, to silence the noise of the world so you can finally hear His voice. And just when you feel like there's no relief, He may place a stream beneath you, a mercy you never expected. But wait, there is another story in the Qur'an, a story of a man swallowed by darkness so deep that no one could have heard his voice, except Allah. And when you hear how he was rescued, you'll realize something about your own pain that could change everything you believe about being trapped. He was trapped in a place no human eye had ever seen, swallowed by layers of darkness that seemed to have no end. Prophet Yunus found himself in the belly of a whale, surrounded by the crushing weight of the ocean, night above, water around, and despair within. Imagine the suffocation, the regret, the torment of replaying his mistake over and over in his mind. He had left his people too soon, walked away from his mission, and now every second inside that darkness was filled with guilt, sharper than any blade. This is not just his story, it's yours when you sit alone, haunted by memories of sins, of choices you wish you could erase, of mistakes that return in whispers when the world is quiet, the kind of guilt that convinces you that you are unworthy of forgiveness, unworthy of peace, unworthy even of speaking to Allah. And yet, in the belly of despair, Yunus uttered words that the Qur'an preserved for every broken soul until the end of time. "There is no deity except you. Exalted are you. Indeed, I have been of the wrongdoers." Surah Al-Anbiya 21:87. These were not long speeches, not perfect words crafted with beauty. They were raw truth, confession, surrender. He didn't blame circumstances. He didn't justify his actions. He simply admitted his weakness before the one who is never weak. And Allah responded. The Quran tells us that Allah rescued him, that the whale released him onto the shore, that the chains of guilt were broken not because Yunus was perfect, but because he was honest. Do you see it? Relief came not when he fixed himself, but when he admitted he couldn't. And isn't that what you need too? To stop running from your mistakes, stop burying them, and finally hand them over to the one who already knows them better than you do. How many times have you carried guilt like an anchor, dragging it with you into every prayer, every relationship, every dream? You punish yourself long after Allah has opened the door of mercy. You keep replaying your failures as if tormenting yourself is a form of repentance. But guilt alone doesn't heal, it only drowns. Repentance heals, turning back heals, recognizing Allah's mercy heals. The truth is, no mistake of yours is greater than His forgiveness. But here's the polarizing question. Do you actually believe that? Or do you think your sin is too big even for the Creator of the heavens and earth? If you secretly think your guilt is greater than His mercy, then isn't that another form of arrogance? To believe your sin is stronger than Allah's names, Al-Ghafur, Ar-Rahim? Let's be clear. Feeling regret is a mercy from Allah. It's proof your heart is still alive. Shaitan wants you to drown in it, to let guilt paralyze you, to convince you that you're too far gone. But Allah wants you to rise with it, to let it push you back into His arms. He rescued Yunus from the belly of the whale, not just as a story for children, but as a blueprint for every sinner, gasping for air under the weight of shame. So let me ask you, how long will you keep torturing yourself for mistakes Allah is ready to forgive? How long will you let the past steal the light of your present? If Yunus could call out from the bottom of an ocean and be heard, do you really think Allah won't hear you from your bedroom, from your sajda, from your whispered cries? He is closer to you than the jugular vein, and His mercy is closer than your next breath. If you feel this in your chest, declare it in the comments. Allah's mercy is greater than my sin. Don't hide it, don't whisper it. Write it as your statement of faith. Let it be your way of breaking free from Shaitan's whisper that you are beyond saving. Write it as a form of defiance against despair. And if this message touched you, click like and share this reminder so someone else drowning in guilt can find the same rope of mercy. Your interaction might be the sadaqah that saves another broken heart. Take a deep breath. Imagine your guilt like a heavy cloak falling off your shoulders. Imagine Allah's mercy wrapping around you instead, not because you are flawless, but because you are His servant who turned back. That's all He asks. And once you understand that, you will realize your guilt is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to guide you. But that's not all. There is another story, one that reveals how even when years go by with no change, when loss feels permanent, Allah is still writing relief in ways your eyes cannot see. And when you hear it, your heart will never look at despair the same way again. He had lived long, and every wrinkle on his face told the story of a man who carried more pain than most hearts could bear. Prophet Yaqub's heart was torn when he lost Yusuf, his beloved son, not to death, but to betrayal. His own sons had conspired against their brother, and Yusuf was cast away, separated from the father who loved him more than words could ever hold. Imagine the silence of Yaqub's nights after that day, the absence at the table, the voice missing from the house, the haunting thought of not knowing whether Yusuf was alive or dead. For years, the only companion he had in his grief was his tears. The Qur'an says his sorrow was so deep that his eyes turned blind from crying. Yet despite all of this, Yaqub's lips never let go of hope. How do you explain that? How do you explain holding on to hope when decades pass and nothing changes? Isn't that delusion? Isn't that denial? That's what people around him thought too. They told him to stop, to let go, to stop remembering Yusuf, to accept that the story was over. But Yaqub answered with words that pierced through centuries. Indeed, none despairs of relief from Allah except the disbelieving people. Surah Yusuf 12:87. His message is clear. Despair is not just sadness, it is the absence of faith. To despair is to deny Allah's power to change your story in a single instant. And this is where many of us fail. The moment life doesn't change in the time we wanted, we call it hopeless. The moment we pray for years without seeing results, we believe our du'as have been rejected. But the story of Yaqub is a reminder that Allah's promise is not bound by our impatience. Relief delayed is not relief denied. The test is not only in the loss itself, but in whether you keep your heart tied to the rope of Allah when the weight feels unbearable. Have you ever been there, waiting for the pain to end, for healing to come, for your child to return, for a door to open, and it feels like Allah is silent? In those moments, the anxiety grows heavier, doesn't it? You start to question, maybe Allah doesn't hear me. Maybe my prayers are too weak. Maybe I'm not worthy of relief. But Yaqub's story dismantles that lie. Allah heard every prayer, saw every tear, and recorded every sigh of his heart. He was not ignored. He was not abandoned. Relief was already written, but it had to come at the exact moment Allah chose, because only then would its wisdom unfold in full beauty. Now think about your own life. How many times did you want something desperately, and when it was delayed, you thought it was lost, only to discover later that Allah was protecting you, preparing you, shaping you? How many times have you looked back and realized that if you had received what you wanted in the moment you asked, it would have destroyed you? This is the lesson of patience. The wait is not empty, it is sacred. Every day you choose to wait with hope is an act of worship that angels record. Yaqub's blindness wasn't just physical, it symbolized the depth of sorrow that could have easily broken him. But instead of letting despair poison his faith, he transformed grief into worship. He turned the absence of Yusuf into a constant connection with Allah. His tears weren't wasted, they were seeds of hope. And when Allah finally reunited him with Yusuf, he didn't just give him back his son. He restored his sight, his heart, his family, and his honor. That's what Allah does with those who refuse to despair. He gives back more than what was lost. But let's ask the hard question. Do you actually believe this? Or do you think your pain is too long, too deep, too permanent for Allah to change? Many people, when faced with years of hardship, stop praying with sincerity. They say the words, but their hearts have already surrendered to hopelessness. If you think like that, aren't you indirectly saying that Allah is incapable, that His mercy has limits? Despair is not humility, it is a quiet form of arrogance, as if your suffering is stronger than His power. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, "I will never despair of Allah's relief." Let this be your declaration of faith, your resistance against hopelessness, your refusal to let Shaitan convince you that your situation is beyond Allah's mercy. Make it public, make it firm, and let your words be written among those who trusted even when their eyes saw no change. And here's something even more powerful. Every moment you resist despair, you are walking in the footsteps of prophets. You are aligning your heart with Yaqub, who showed that hope in Allah is not tied to results but to faith. Your weight is not wasted, your grief is not forgotten, your hope is not foolish, it is worship, it is surrender, it is your rope to Allah when everything else has slipped away. Take a moment now, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and imagine the reunion of Yaqub with Yusuf. Imagine the joy of holding his son again after years of emptiness. Imagine the tears of gratitude washing away decades of sorrow. That is what Allah does. He does not just heal, He transforms. He writes endings that make the pain worth it. He teaches us through stories like this that despair is never an option for the believer. But wait, this is only part of the truth, because there is another story in the Quran of a man who didn't just endure loss for years, he endured suffering for decades. His body was broken, his wealth was gone, his family stripped away, yet he still never let despair touch his heart. And when you discover how Allah responded to his patience, you'll realize that sometimes the heaviest trials are the very path to the highest mercy. He was once a man surrounded by blessings, wealth, health, family, respect. Prophet Ayub's life was a picture of stability, the kind of life many of us dream of. But in a moment that seemed to stretch into years, everything changed. His wealth vanished, his body was struck with illness, his loved ones distanced themselves. What was once comfort turned into trial upon trial, wave after wave of suffering. Can you imagine the weight of carrying pain for not just days or months, but for decades? Every morning waking up to the same illness, every night lying down with the same scars, with no relief in sight. This is a level of burden that many of us would crumble under in weeks. And yet, Ayub's heart held firm. His tongue did not curse his condition, his lips did not complain to creation. Instead, he turned to the Creator, and his words still echo as the ultimate cry of a believer in anguish. Indeed, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful. Surah Al-Anbiya 21:83. There is a deep secret hidden in this prayer. Ayub didn't deny his suffering. He didn't pretend it wasn't real. He admitted it. Adversity has touched me. But the very next breath was not despair, not accusation, not anger. It was surrender to Allah's mercy. He reminded himself and us that no pain is bigger than Allah's compassion. That's why this story is more than history. It's medicine for our anxious hearts. Because many of us live with the burden of feeling like life is simply too heavy. Bills stacking up, health failing, relationships broken, dreams shattered. Anxiety whispers, you can't carry this anymore. And maybe that's true, maybe you can't. But Allah can. Think of your own struggles, the times you've said, I can't take this anymore. The moments you've been tempted to give up. Ayub shows us that endurance is not about denying the pain, but about where you take it. To whom do you complain? To people who can't change your condition, or to the one whose mercy can flip your reality in a heartbeat? We live in a culture that tells us to be strong by holding everything inside or distracting ourselves until it numbs. But that is not strength, it's suppression. Real strength is crying to Allah, admitting your weakness, and trusting that your tears are not wasted. Notice something else. Ayub was not answered immediately. His suffering stretched over years. That in itself is a lesson. Your prayer being delayed does not mean it was ignored. Sometimes Allah keeps you in the storm longer, not because He has abandoned you, but because every wave washes away sins, every gust of wind purifies your heart, and every drop of rain plants seeds of sabr that will bloom in eternity. What you see as a curse may actually be a doorway to elevation. But let's confront a hard truth. Do you really believe trials are a path to elevation, or do you secretly see them as punishment? Many people think, if Allah loved me, He wouldn't let this happen. But Ayub proves the opposite. It was precisely because Allah loved him that He tested him, to make his patience a beacon for all of humanity. If you see your pain only as rejection, you miss the chance to see it as selection, that Allah chose you for a higher station, to polish you with fire so that you emerge radiant. If this is touching your heart, declare it in the comments. My pain is not a punishment, it's a path to mercy. Let your words be a stand against Shaitan's whispers. Let them be a reminder to yourself that your suffering is not meaningless. Write it as an act of worship, as a shield against despair. Now think of how we can apply this. When life feels unbearable, remember Ayub's words. Speak them, cry them, repeat them until your heart believes them. Every time anxiety tells you the weight is too much, say, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful. Every time people make you feel like your suffering is a sign of Allah's anger, say, my Lord is merciful beyond measure, and watch how your heart transforms, not because the problem disappears, but because your soul begins to see the problem through the lens of faith. Here lies the beauty. Allah eventually healed Ayub, restored his wealth and gave him back his family. But the greatest gift was not the return of what he lost. It was the purification of his soul through the trial. His story is proof that patience doesn't only protect you, it elevates you to heights you never imagined. And if Allah could carry Ayub through decades of affliction, what makes you think He won't carry you through this storm you're in? Close your eyes for a moment. Picture Ayub, frail in body but unshakable in faith, raising his trembling hands to Allah. Feel the weight of His words and imagine Allah's mercy descending in response. That mercy is not locked in the past. It is alive, available, reaching you right now. All you have to do is hold on, keep turning to Him, and refuse to let despair define your story. But there is something even more extraordinary. Another prophet, in the face of an unknown future, asked Allah not for relief from pain but for certainty of the unseen, and what Allah showed him shattered the boundaries of fear itself. What he discovered speaks directly to one of the greatest anxieties we all carry, the fear of death, the anxiety of what happens after this life. And when you hear his words, you'll realize that even death itself cannot steal peace from the heart of one who trusts in Allah. He looked at the stars, the skies, the mountains, and everything around him testified to the greatness of Allah. Yet, within his own heart, Prophet Ibrahim carried a question that many of us even today carry quietly. What happens after death? What is the reality of life beyond this fragile existence? The fear of the unknown, of ceasing to exist, of losing loved ones, of standing before Allah unprepared, can feel overwhelming. It is one of the deepest roots of human anxiety. And even Ibrahim, the close friend of Allah, asked with humility for reassurance. In Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 260, Ibrahim, peace be upon him, turned to Allah and said, My Lord, show me how you give life to the dead. Allah asked him, Have you not believed? He said, Yes, but I ask only that my heart may be satisfied. This moment is revolutionary. It shatters the stigma that fear of death or questioning about the unseen is a sign of weak faith. Ibrahim's faith was already firm. He had destroyed idols, faced fire, and abandoned his homeland for the sake of Allah. And yet he still asked, because faith is not the absence of questions, but the courage to bring those questions to Allah. Many of us struggle with the anxiety of mortality, with the dread of what comes after we breathe our last. Society either avoids the subject, treating death as taboo, or feeds us images of fear and terror. But here, Allah Himself validates the desire for reassurance. He doesn't shame Ibrahim for asking. Instead, He shows him the miracle, birds brought back to life in front of his eyes, so his heart could rest. How many of us need that same reassurance? How many nights do people lie awake fearing the moment their soul will be taken? How often do we panic at the thought of losing someone close, not knowing if we could survive the emptiness left behind? This anxiety is not weakness. It's part of the human condition, and the Qur'an responds to it with a promise that Allah alone holds life and death, and that nothing He decrees is without mercy and wisdom. To fear the unknown is natural, but to let that fear consume you is to forget the one who owns both this world and the next. Let's bring this closer to our lives. Every funeral we attend shakes us. Every illness reminds us of our fragility. Every grey hair, every heartbeat is a step closer to the grave. These reminders can either paralyze us with dread or awaken us to live more meaningfully, anchored in remembrance of Allah. Death is not the end. It is the transition into the true life. Ibrahim's request teaches us that it's okay to seek reassurance, to ask Allah, to make our hearts firm when fear whispers in our minds. It teaches us that anxiety about the unseen can be transformed into tranquility when we root ourselves in Tawakkul. So when that fear creeps in, when your chest tightens at the thought of dying, remember, you are not the first to feel it. A prophet felt it and Allah responded with mercy. Instead of running from the fear, bring it to Allah in dua. Say, Ya Allah, make my heart satisfied with your promise. Let me die as a believer and resurrect me among the righteous. This prayer doesn't just ease the anxiety, it turns the fear into an act of worship. And here's where many of us need to confront a lie we've been taught. That fear of death means you don't trust Allah enough. That is not true. Fear of death is part of being human. The problem is not the fear itself, but where you take it. Do you let it trap you in panic, or do you let it push you toward preparing for the hereafter? Faith doesn't erase fear, it transforms it into motivation. The anxiety of mortality becomes a reminder to repent more, to pray more sincerely, to detach from worldly illusions, and to attach firmly to the promise of eternal life. If this message is reaching you, write in the comments, I choose peace over fear because Allah is in control of my life and my death. Let this be your shield against the whispers that death is only loss. Proclaim that you trust Allah with the unknown. And if this reminder has touched your heart, don't just keep it to yourself. Click like and share this video. Let your small action be a sadaqah jariyah, guiding someone who silently struggles with the same fear. Your click might be the reason someone finds peace tonight. Now breathe in deeply. Imagine yourself in Ibrahim's place, watching life return where it had disappeared, seeing with your own eyes that Allah controls every heartbeat, every soul, every resurrection. That same certainty is what Allah wants to place in your heart. Death is not a void. It is a doorway to His mercy for those who believe. And when you begin to internalize that, the grip of fear loosens, replaced with serenity. But here comes something even more surprising. If fear of death shakes us, what about the fear of being forgotten by Allah while we're still alive? What about those moments when you pray and pray, yet the silence feels unbearable? What if the real anxiety isn't about the end of life, but about the silence in life, the haunting feeling that Allah no longer hears you? The answer lies in the story of another prophet, who prayed for years without response, and yet his words remain a timeless reminder that Allah never abandons His servants. He was an old man, his hair white, his body frail, his voice almost breaking under the weight of years. Prophet Zechariah carried a longing in his heart that never faded, the hope of having a child who would carry on the message of Allah after him. But as the years passed and the silence of his house grew heavier, that hope seemed impossible. The people around him would look at his age, at his wife's barrenness, and perhaps whisper, "It's too late for him." Yet, in the stillness of his nights, Zechariah raised his trembling hands and prayed with words that continue to heal anxious hearts. "Never have I been disappointed in my supplication to you, my Lord." Surah Maryam 19:4. Can you feel the weight of those words? He prayed for decades, not for days, not for months, decades. And in all that time, he never once allowed hopelessness to replace his dua. He never allowed the whispers of people or the silence of the years to convince him that Allah had forgotten him. This is where many of us collapse. We ask Allah once, twice, 100 times, and when nothing changes, we stop. We let Shaitan convince us that the silence means rejection. We stop praying not because we got what we wanted, but because we lost the belief that Allah was listening. Zechariah shows us that silence is not abandonment. Silence is a test. How many times have you prayed for something that still hasn't come? Relief from anxiety, healing from illness, reconciliation with someone you love, guidance for a child, forgiveness for your mistakes. You keep asking, and life doesn't move. You keep crying, but the heavens don't seem to answer. And the thought creeps in, maybe Allah doesn't care about me. Maybe I'm not worthy of His mercy. That lie is what destroys faith. The truth is, every dua you make is heard. Every tear you shed is counted. Every whisper of your heart is recorded. The delay is not rejection, the delay is preparation. For you, for your soul, for your destiny. Zachariah could have given up. Logic said it was impossible. Biology said it was impossible. People said it was impossible. But he chose to keep asking. And when Allah answered, He gave not just a child, but Yahya, a prophet, a pure soul, a miracle that still inspires the world. This is the essence of trusting Allah's promise against despair, never measuring Allah's power by human standards, never assuming His silence means absence. The door of mercy is always open, and patience is the key that unlocks it. Ask yourself honestly, have you stopped praying for something because you thought it was too late? Did you give up on yourself, your marriage, your child, your healing, because the silence was too long? Maybe the real test wasn't whether Allah would answer, but whether you would keep asking until He chose the perfect time. Because what is dua, if not a declaration of faith that says, I still believe in your mercy even when I don't see it yet? If you feel this speaking to your soul, write in the comments, I will never stop asking Allah. Let this be your stand against hopelessness, your shield against despair, your reminder that silence is not rejection. Declare it so others who read it will be inspired to raise their hands again. And think about this. How many blessings in your life today were once due as you thought were ignored? How many gifts arrived when you least expected after you had nearly lost hope? Allah is subtle in the way He responds. Sometimes He delays to give you something better. Sometimes He withholds because what you're asking would harm you. Sometimes He saves the reward of your patience for the hereafter, where every moment of waiting will be repaid in ways you cannot imagine. The next time anxiety tells you that Allah has forgotten you, remember Zachariah. Remember his frail body, his trembling voice, his persistent heart. And remember how Allah honored him with a child when the world thought it impossible. Your prayers are not echoes in the dark. They are seeds planted in unseen soil, waiting for the season Allah has written. Keep watering them with faith, and when they bloom, the fragrance will make every year of waiting worth it. But here is something even more profound. If Zachariah's story teaches us that Allah never forgets our du'as, there is another story that reminds us that even when the world overlooks you, Allah still sees your worth. It is the story of a woman unknown to history by name, yet her trust in Allah shaped the destiny of a prophet and the future of nations. She was a mother, holding her newborn in trembling arms, knowing that soldiers were hunting for boys like him to kill them. Imagine her fear. Every cry from the baby could draw attention. Every sound could mean death. Her heart beat with the unbearable weight of inadequacy. How could she possibly protect him from an empire determined to end his life? She was not a queen, not a warrior, not someone with power or status. She was simply a woman, hidden from the world, feeling small, fragile, and powerless. And it was in this moment of overwhelming fear and inadequacy that Allah sent inspiration directly to her heart. And we inspired the mother of Musa, suckle him, but when you fear for him, cast him into the river, and do not fear and do not grieve. Indeed, we will return him to you and will make him one of the messengers. Surah Al-Qasas 28:7. Can you imagine the intensity of that command? To take your baby, the one you just nursed, and put him in a basket on the river. Every maternal instinct would scream against it. But this was not about logic, not about control. It was about tawakkul, pure trust in Allah. The mother of Musa shows us that inadequacy is not failure. Feeling small, weak, or unseen doesn't disqualify you from Allah's plan. In fact, it may be the very reason He chooses you, because it is in weakness that tawakkul shines brightest. How many of us carry the same feeling of inadequacy? You compare yourself to others and think you're not good enough, not religious enough, not successful enough, not strong enough to face life's challenges. You see people around you who seem confident, capable, in control, and you think, why can't I be like them? This constant comparison fuels anxiety, eating away at your peace. But the story of Musa's mother flips that lie on its head. She was nobody in the eyes of the world, But Allah elevated her trust into history. Her decision to obey, to let go, became the very means by which a prophet was raised and a nation was saved. Think about this carefully. What made her great was not wealth or position or recognition. It was a heart surrendered to Allah. She did not fight Pharaoh with an army. She fought her fear with faith. And Allah himself promised her two things: that Musa would be returned to her, and that he would grow into one of the messengers. Both promises came true, showing us that when you feel like you're not enough, Allah is more than enough for you. And this is where many of us need to challenge ourselves. Do you really believe your worth is measured by the world or by Allah? If the world ignores you, does that mean you are insignificant? Or could it be that Allah sees the quiet sacrifices, the hidden tears, the private prayers no one else notices and values, them more than all the applause of people? Maybe your greatest contribution to this world will not be something public, but the hidden act of trust that Allah alone witnesses. If this message resonates with your heart, write in the comments, "My worth is with Allah, not the world." Let your words break the chains of comparison and inadequacy, and let others who read it be reminded that their hidden struggles are seen by the one who matters most. So when you feel like you don't measure up, remember the mother of Musa. She wasn't chosen because she was powerful. She was chosen because she trusted, and that trust rewrote history. Your anxiety about not being good enough can become your doorway to intimacy with Allah. Every time you feel small, whisper to yourself, "Allah sees me." Every time you feel weak, remind yourself, "Allah is my strength." And every time you feel unworthy, remember that Allah elevates the sincere over the celebrated. Take a deep breath. Picture the river, the basket, the tears in a mother's eyes as she lets go, and the unseen angels guiding that basket safely to its destination. That same unseen care is guiding your life, even when you can't see it. And just when you think your weakness disqualifies you, Allah may be preparing to use that very weakness to reveal His strength. But here's something even more breathtaking. If Musa's mother teaches us that our hidden trust is seen by Allah, then Yusuf's journey reminds us that even betrayal, trauma, and false accusations cannot erase the destiny Allah writes for His servant. And the way his story unfolds will show you that your past, no matter how painful, does not have the power to define your future. He was thrown into a well by his own brothers, abandoned in the darkness of water and stone. Imagine Yusuf as a young boy shivering, calling out, heartbroken that the very people who should have protected him became the source of his deepest wound. Later, in Egypt, he was falsely accused, his reputation shattered, and he was locked away in prison for years. Betrayal, humiliation, injustice. His life was a chain of traumas that could have destroyed him, but instead of drowning in bitterness, he held on to Allah. At the end of his journey, when all the threads of his pain were finally woven together, he stood before his brothers and said, "Indeed, my Lord is subtle in what He wills." Surah Yusuf 12:100. Those words hold a secret that many overlook. Allah's plan works in ways that seem invisible at first, but His wisdom is always present. Think about the weight of carrying wounds from the past. Maybe you were betrayed by family, maybe you were abandoned by friends, maybe you carry scars of things done to you that no one else understands. These memories replay in your mind like a broken record, trapping you in cycles of anger, guilt, or sorrow. You try to move forward, but the shadow of the past pulls you back, whispering that you are defined by what happened to you. That's the heaviness of trauma. It convinces you that your yesterday dictates your tomorrow. But Yusuf's life tells us otherwise. He was not defined by betrayal, nor by false accusations, nor by prison. He was defined by his steadfastness, his patience, and his trust in Allah's qadr. What seemed like chains were actually keys opening the way to his destiny. Here's the part that challenges our common thinking. People often say, "Time heals everything." But if time alone could heal, why do some wounds stay raw even after decades? The truth is, time doesn't heal. Allah does. It's not the hours that pass, but the heart's surrender to Allah that brings relief. Yusuf didn't just wait for time to make him forget. He actively chose forgiveness. He chose to see Allah's wisdom in every trial. He chose sabr when bitterness could have consumed him. And because of that, Allah raised him from the depths of the well to the heights of leadership. Ask yourself, are you still a prisoner of your past? Do you replay conversations, mistakes, betrayals until they eat you alive? What if, like Yusuf, you could stand tall and declare, Allah was subtle in His plan for me. What if the things that broke you were actually shaping you for something greater? Forgiveness is not weakness, it's freedom. It doesn't erase the past, but it breaks its power over your future. If you believe that Allah's mercy is greater than your past, write in the comments, "My past does not define me. Allah does." And if this message touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Click on like and share it, so someone else drowning in their history can breathe hope again. Your small action could be the rope that pulls someone out of their well of despair. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture Yusuf in prison, forgotten by people, but never forgotten by Allah. Picture him embracing his brothers years later, not with vengeance, but with forgiveness. Now picture yourself in his place. What would it feel like to finally let go of that heavy stone you've been carrying in your chest? That's what happens when you trust Allah's promise. The subtlety of His plan may be hidden now, but one day you'll see how every hardship was a step toward your elevation. And here's the twist that will keep you thinking. If Yusuf's past became the very stage for his rise, what if your greatest pain is the soil from which your greatest growth will bloom? Do you really think Allah would waste your tears? Or could it be that He is planting something in the soil of your suffering that will one day bear fruit in ways you cannot imagine? But this isn't the end of the journey, because even when you release the past, another struggle remains: the urge to control the future, the fear of letting go. And the companions of the Prophet at Badr will show us what it means to surrender that fear and discover that true peace lies not in control, but in trust. They stood on the battlefield, their hearts trembling. The companions of the Prophet were not seasoned warriors. Many were simple men, farmers, shepherds, merchants. Before them was an army 3 times larger, heavily armed, confident in its strength. Fear clawed at their hearts. They were few, weak in number, short on weapons, and staring at what looked like certain defeat. Imagine the silence that must have hung in the air as they looked at one another. Wives and children at home depending on them, their very faith on the line. In the middle of that overwhelming fear, they spoke words that echo through centuries. "Sufficient for us is Allah, and He is the best disposer of affairs." Surah Al-Imran 3:173. This is the moment that cuts to the heart of our own struggles. How many times have you tried to control outcomes, clinging desperately to the illusion that you can manage everything? You plan every detail, calculate every risk, obsess over every possible scenario, yet life slips through your fingers anyway. That's the root of so much anxiety. The belief that if you don't hold the world together, everything will collapse. The companions at Badr show us the truth. Your peace is not in control, but in surrender. When you say, "Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil" with sincerity, it doesn't mean you give up. It means you finally release what was never in your hands to begin with. Let's be real. Anxiety convinces you that control is safety. It whispers that if you don't plan enough, if you don't predict every outcome, disaster will strike. But tell me, how many times did your plans fail anyway? How many times did life surprise you? Sometimes in ways that broke you, sometimes in ways that blessed you. Control is an illusion, and the tighter you cling, the more it crushes your spirit. Tawakkul is not passivity. The companions didn't lay down their swords, they prepared, they fought, they gave their all. But they also knew that numbers and weapons don't decide destiny. Allah does. Maybe right now you're facing your own Badr. It might be the fear of losing your job, the uncertainty of a medical diagnosis, the collapse of a relationship, or the pressure of debt. You feel outnumbered, underprepared, inadequate. You can't see how relief will come. That's when this verse becomes your shield. Whisper it when panic rises, "Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil." Feel the weight of control lift off your chest. Remind yourself that the one who created the heavens and the earth does not need you to manage outcomes. He asks you to trust Him after you've done your part. If you feel this message touching your heart, write in the comments, "Sufficient for me is Allah." Let this be your public declaration that you are done carrying a burden that was never yours to carry. Declare it so others may find the courage to let go too. And think about this. When the companions surrendered control, when they trusted Allah despite being outnumbered, what happened? Angels descended to fight alongside them. Victory came from places they could never have imagined. That is the secret of surrender. When you stop obsessing over what you can't control, you make space for Allah's unseen help to enter. You may not see angels, but relief can come in a sudden opportunity, an unexpected solution, a shift in your heart that replaces fear with serenity. So ask yourself, Do you really think your sleepless nights, your constant overthinking, your endless attempts to control every detail will change the decree of Allah? Or is it time to admit that true strength lies in handing over the reins to the one who already wrote your story? This is where peace begins. Not when the battlefield disappears, but when you stand in the middle of it, whispering with trembling lips, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. And here's the final twist that leaves no room for doubt. Your greatest victories will not come from control, but from surrender. The companions proved that. They remind us that when you feel most powerless, you are actually closest to the source of power, because only then do you finally lean fully on Allah. Anxiety may try to convince you that letting go means losing, but the Qur'an shows us that surrendering to Allah is the only path to true victory. You've walked with me through stories of the Qur'an that are not just ancient lessons, but living reminders that Allah's promises are alive in your life today. You've seen the fear of Musa standing at the sea, the loneliness of Maryam in her pain, the regret of Yunus in the belly of the whale, the grief of Yaqub that lasted for years, the patience of Ayub, the questions of Ibrahim, the pleas of Zachariah, the hidden strength of Musa's mother, the resilience of Yusuf rising from betrayal, and the surrender of the companions at Badr. Every one of these moments speaks directly to your own battles with fear, guilt, hopelessness, loneliness, and the crushing weight of anxiety. Each verse we shared is a thread that ties your heart back to the unshakable truth. Allah sees you, hears you, and has already promised relief. But let's be honest, hearing these stories is one thing, living them is another, and this is where your heart is tested. Do you still believe Allah is with you when the night feels endless? Do you still hold on to sabr when your prayers seem unanswered? Do you still whisper Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil when fear suffocates you? These questions cut deep, and they are meant to, because anxiety doesn't disappear by ignoring it. It transforms when you place it in the hands of the one who controls everything. And here's the truth. If you made it to this moment in the video, it's not by accident. If you're still here, it's because Allah is already working in your heart. He is responding to the silent du'as you made when no one else was watching. This is not just a message, it's a divine response, a call for you to rise, to surrender, and to step into the peace Allah promised. So breathe deeply, close your eyes, and prepare your heart. Lift your hands, let your shoulders drop, release the tension in your chest. You're about to enter a conversation with the one who never ignores you. Let every distraction fall away. This is your moment to open your heart completely. Ya Allah, most merciful, most loving, you see the anxiety that weighs on this heart. You know the sleepless nights, the silent tears, the racing thoughts that no one else understands. Ya Allah, remove this burden. Replace fear with peace. Replace doubt with certainty. Replace weakness with strength. Grant patience, grant sabr that is unshakable. Grant tawakkul that never wavers. Heal every wound that anxiety has left behind and fill this heart with light. Ya Allah, write tranquility in the soul of the one making this dua, and let your promise be their reality. Indeed, with hardship comes ease, and now let your soul rest in that prayer. Let it wash over you, because if your lips moved, if your heart whispered even a single Ameen, then know Allah has already heard you. If this touched your heart, write in the comments, I trust Allah. Let this be your act of public faith, a declaration that you choose surrender over fear. And share this message with someone who is drowning in anxiety, because maybe Allah will use you as the reason they find peace. And don't forget, subscribe and stay with us, because here you will always find reminders from the Qur'an, support for your struggles, and guidance for your soul. Think of it as sadaqah jariyah. Every time you interact, like, comment, or share, you're spreading a message of light that can continue to change lives long after this moment ends. But before you go, listen carefully. If this message reached your heart, what you will discover in the next video can shake your soul even deeper. Don't leave without watching, because what's waiting could be the exact answer you've been begging Allah for. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. Surah Ash-Shar 94:6. This is not the end. It's the beginning of your peace. Stay with us. Keep walking this journey and let the next step transform you.